Hey everybody, welcome to the Worship Tone Lab. Today we're going to be covering the guitar parts for Real Thing by Vertical Church. And also, as a heads up, in the description, if you click on that, you can click through the different parts that both of us are playing. So if you're looking for a certain part, make sure to check that out, and here we go. So for the electric one parts of this song, I sit out for the intro and the first verse. Now, if you want to, you can play swells and fill up that kind of space. But for me, I sit out into the first chorus. And the first chorus is super simple. All you're gonna do throughout the whole thing is you're gonna play one chord every other measure. And that chord is an A chord, but it has a B on top. So it's kind of like an A2 chord or an A9 chord. And that's starting on an E note on the G, which is on the, what fret is that? The 9th fret. 10 on B, and then 7 on E, and that chord sounds like this. And you play that on the first beat of every other measure, and that leads us into the turnaround. So this is what I play for the turnaround. So all you need to do to play that turnaround, you start on the 14th fret of the G string, and you kind of lead in before the first beat of the turnaround. You kind of do this sort of thing. That leads you in, and then you play this fun line. It starts on 14, 16, 14, 17. So that was on the G string first, and then the B. So, and then you get to the top, you go to this F sharp note on the E string, which is on 14. So far we have this. And then you go back down. 14 on B, 17 on B, 14 on G, 16 on D. So all together we have this slowly. Then it repeats itself again. And you play that same lick for every turnaround through the rest of the song. So coming out of that first turnaround, this is what I play for verse 2. It's a really simple line, but you gotta count it correctly. So it goes like this. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And it does that through the whole verse. And what you're doing is you're starting on the upbeat, so the 1 and you're playing on the 2nd fret of the B string. And then you're gonna kind of hold them both at the same time. You're gonna hold the 2nd fret of the B string and the 4th fret of the G string. You're gonna do this. Then back down to the A on the G string, which is the 2nd fret. So it's gonna be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and. See what I'm saying? So it's really simple. You play that all the way through verse 2, and then that leads us into chorus 2, where we play the exact same chord that we did for chorus 1, which is this. Every other measure. And then that leads us into the instrumental before the bridge, and then into the bridge. So I sit out for the first half of the bridge, and when the band comes back in, I play something that goes like this. Goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So what I'm playing there is this. It's a chord starting on the 11th fret of the G string, the 14th fret of the B string, and the 12th fret of the E string. And that chord sounds like this. But the way you play it, you got to count it, and you start it on the and of 4. So if you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, that's when you start this line, and you go up from the E string. So it goes. And then the next chord you play, you can leave your pinky and your middle finger in the same spot, and then you just put your ring finger down on the 13th fret of the G string and make this chord. So altogether it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3, 4, 2. See what I'm saying? And so once the band starts really building it towards the end of the bridge, all you're gonna do is you're just gonna be pedaling that lowest note of the chord. So it's gonna sound like. And then you're gonna walk up to A, back down to F sharp, while you're doing that vamp section before the big chorus. And then right before we go back into that chorus, you go from the F sharp down to E. So that section is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that leads us into the last couple choruses, and what I do there is I finally turn on some overdrive, and I'm playing this line that starts on an A note on the B string on the 10th fret. And it's going in between the A string and the E string. It goes like this. So all I'm doing there is this. I'm going 10 on A, and then I'm going to 10 on E, down to 9, back to 10 on A, repeat that same thing, back to 10 on A, repeat, and then down to an F sharp on the 7th fret of the B. So far slowly we have this. So those are the notes you have so far. And then the only difference when it repeats is instead of going down to the F sharp on the B string, it walks up. It goes from D on the 10th fret of the E to 12 to 14. So altogether slowly again, it sounds like this. So you play that same line for the 2 big choruses after the bridge, and then we go into one last instrumental turnaround, whatever you want to call it, and then we're done.
EG2 is in from the very top of the song, and we're basically doubling what the piano is doing. And one quick note about effects, I don't usually use a shimmer verb, but I'm using one on this part because I think it just helps pull it out and just makes it kind of pop a little bit. So here's how the part goes. So that's what we play for the intro. And all it is right here on the 2nd fret of the G string. Then we walk down to the 1st fret of the G string. So then we go to the 2nd fret of the B string, 2nd fret of the D string, up to the 4th fret. Then we do that whole same thing again. But the last 2 notes are different. So it goes like this. 2nd, 1st, 2nd, and then right up here to the 5th of the B string and the 7th of the B string. And then we're into the verse. The verse line is very similar to the intro line, except we're making it a chord instead of single notes. So it goes like this. So all I'm playing there is the 4th fret on the D string and the 2nd fret on the G string. Then we slide it down to the 2nd fret on the D string and the 1st fret on the G string. Then we slide all the way up to the 7th fret on the D string and the 6th fret on the G string. And then we do 5th on B and 7th on B. And so that line just repeats all the way through the verse. Coming out of the verse, we go into chorus 1, and here's what I play for that. So this whole line is pedal toning the A string, so we just leave it open, and then playing notes on the D string. So we start right here on the 7th fret of the D string, sounds like that. Then we move up to the 12th fret of the D string, down to the 11th fret of the D string, and then we move all the way down to the 4th fret of the D string later. So slowly it sounds like this. So from there, we go back into the turnaround line that we played at the very beginning of the song. And then we go into verse 2, and we play the exact same thing that we played in verse 1. And then, out of that, we play the exact same thing we played in chorus 1, that pedal toning line. And out of that, we go into this cool finger picking line right before the bridge. So this is how that goes. For this part, we're following the chords of the bridge with our bass notes, and then we're plucking some higher kind of like accent notes. So slowly, it goes like this. That's the first chord, and we have our index finger right here on the 5th fret of the A string, and then our pinky finger on the 7th fret of the B string, and our ring finger on the 6th fret of the G string. So, just like that. And for this chord, I like to keep my middle finger on the 5th fret of the B string just to set us up to get into the very next chord, which looks like this. So we move our pinky to the 7th fret of the A string, and then which obviously removes it from the 7th fret of the B string, and we have our middle finger on the 5th fret right there to make this next chord, just like that. Then we continue moving our bass notes. We put our pinky back on the 7th fret, and we put our index finger on the 4th fret of the D string. So it sounds like this. Then we move to the next chord. We move our index finger down one string to the A string, still on the 4th fret, and pick our pinky up so the 5th fret is ringing out again. Just like that. So slowly it sounds like this. From there, we move on to the second half of the bridge, which is this really cool palm muty Stranger Things arpeggiated sounding lick. And it's really fun, but it's also a little tricky because it changes with the chords, which is great, but it's also just moving the entire time. So it goes like this. So for this part, I add a couple of overdrives, and then I switch the shimmer verb to a plate reverb because I don't want that sparkly sound in there anymore. So this part starts on the 7th fret of the G string, and it moves up to the 9th fret on the G string. then the 9th fret on the B string, and up to the 10th fret. So it sounds like this slowly. Then we bar the 9th fret on the D, the G, and the B string. And then we hit the 10th fret of the B string. So it sounds like this. Then the next pattern, we actually do a walk down instead of a walk up. So it starts on the 12th fret of the B string. You move down to the 10th fret of the B string, the 9th fret, and then the 9th fret of the G string. So it sounds like this. Then the last pattern in this lick is starting on the 9th fret of the E string, then to the 10th fret of the B string, the 9th fret of the B string, and the 9th fret of the G string. To transition out of the bridge into the chorus, we do this really fun like octave bend thing that you don't do too much in worship music, so I really like it. You have your ring finger on the 12th fret of the G string and your pointer finger on the 10th fret of the B string. Then you bend the G string up to an A note, so it's sounding this, but since you're bending it, it hits that. But you strike both of these notes. So we're gonna hit that and just do it through that whole vamp, so it's like. And from that, we go right into this chorus, and we're just doing these diamond hits with the band. So with all the effects and everything on, it's gonna sound like this. We basically rock that chord for a very long time until it switches to the 4 chord. Then we play this with those hits. And we do that all the way through those last choruses. We can start like really jamming on it instead of those quarter notes until the very end. But before we get there, this is how I play that part. So without anything on, these are just inversions of chords. This is an A chord, the 1 chord. So we have our pinky on the 10th fret of the B string, our ring finger on the 9th fret of the G string, and our pointer finger on the 7th fret of the D string. So that's that chord we hang on forever. Then we switch to the 4 chord, and our pinky stays right there on the 10th fret, and then we bar right here on the 7th fret of the G and the D. So the chord sounds like this. And we just jam that until we get to the turnaround at the very end of the song. For this final turnaround, we're playing the same notes that we played in all the other turnarounds, but we're playing it higher up on the neck just to get a little bit more attack and bite out of it. I'm also going back to the shimmer verb, I'm adding another overdrive, and I'm adding the pog to it just to make it massive. So this is what it sounds like. So all I'm doing for this part is I'm starting on the 10th fret of the B string, then we go down to the 9th fret of the B string, the 9th fret of the E string, and then the 9th fret of the G string up to the 11th. So slowly it sounds like this. And that's how the song ends, and you're done.
Thanks for watching the video today, guys. If you have any questions about the parts that we're playing or the gear that we're using, go ahead and give us a comment down below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you want more content from us. And if you want to be notified with more content, go ahead and hit the little bell alert icon and then you'll get notified when we put out new videos. Other than that, we'll see you next time.